Listen carefully. If you are hearing this message right now, understand something very clearly. This is not entertainment. This is not coincidence. This is not just another motivational sound passing through your ears. When you hear the words, February 23rd and 24 are critical, it is not about superstition. It is not about fear. It is about awareness. And awareness is the beginning of transformation. Most people move through life unconsciously. They wake up without intention. They speak without thinking. They react without understanding. They scroll without purpose. They complain without action. And then they wonder why nothing changes. They wait for a sign, but when the sign appears, they dismiss it because it demands responsibility. If you found this message before February 23rd and 24, congratulations. Not because you are special, not because you are randomly chosen, but because you are aware enough to pause. Awareness is rare, discipline is rare, reflection is rare, and anything rare is valuable. A critical day is not about danger. It is about decision. A critical moment is a moment that separates who you were from who you could become. These days are critical because they are mirrors, and most people are afraid of mirrors. Why? Because mirrors do not lie. When you stand in front of a mirror, you see exactly what is there. Not what you wish was there, not what you pretend is there. Exactly what is there. With their February 23 and 24 are mirrors. They will show you your preparation. They will show you your habits. They will show you your mental strength. They will show you your discipline. And if you do not like what you see, that is not punishment. That is feedback. The problem is not that life is difficult. The problem is that most people are unprepared. They want results without training. They want clarity without silence. They want strength without discomfort. But strength is built in silence. Clarity is built in reflection. Discipline is built in repetition. You cannot skip the process. When you hear that something is critical, your first reaction might be fear. But fear is simply a lack of preparation. When you are prepared, critical moments become opportunities. When you are unprepared, even small challenges feel overwhelming. So instead of asking, what will happen on those days? Ask yourself a more powerful question. Who will I be on those days? Will you be reactive or composed? Will you be distracted or focused? Will you be emotional or grounded? Your identity in a critical moment is not created in that moment. It is revealed. If you panic easily, it is not because the situation is strong. It is because your foundation is weak. If you lose control quickly, it is not because life is unfair. It is because your mind is untrained. This is not judgment. This is responsibility. You cannot control external events, but you can control your inner state. And your inner state determines your experience. Think about this carefully. Two people can experience the same day. One sees chaos, the other sees opportunity. One collapses, the other grows. What is the difference? Mindset, discipline, awareness. With February 23rd and 24 are critical. It means they carry weight. And weight reveals strength. When you lift something heavy, it shows you how strong you are. It does not create your strength in that moment. It reveals it. What reveals it? Life is the same. So the question is not whether those days will be heavy. The question is whether you are training. Training does not mean dramatic change overnight. Training means small, consistent improvements. Waking up when you say you will wake up. Keeping promises you make to yourself. Reducing distractions. Observing your thoughts instead of obeying them. Most people are controlled by impulses. If they feel lazy, they rest. If they feel angry, they react. If they feel bored, they escape. They live as servants to their emotions. But emotions are temporary. Discipline is permanent. When you discipline yourself, you are not restricting freedom. You are building power, because the person who cannot control himself will always be controlled by circumstances. A critical day exposes this truth. Imagine pressure arriving, deadlines, decisions, challenges, uncertainty. If your mind is scattered, pressure becomes panic. If your mind is steady, pressure becomes fuel. This is why awareness matters. Because awareness gives you space between stimulus and response. In that space, there is power. Without awareness, you react automatically. With awareness, you choose consciously. And choice is strength. Time to adjust. Time to strengthen your foundation. Do not waste this time on fear. Use it for preparation. Preparation does not mean predicting the future. It means strengthening yourself regardless of what comes. Sleep with discipline, eat with awareness, speak with intention. Reduce unnecessary noise. Spend time in silence. Silence is uncomfortable for those who avoid themselves. But silence is powerful for those who seek clarity. When you sit quietly, you begin to see your patterns. You notice how easily you are distracted. You notice how quickly your mind jumps from one thought to another. You notice how often you replay past mistakes or imagine future fears. This observation is not weakness. It is growth. A critical day is simply a checkpoint. A moment where life asks you, have you been training? Have you been conscious? Have you been intentional? If the answer is yes, you walk through it calmly. If the answer is no, you feel shaken. But even if you feel shaken, it is not too late. Awareness now can still shift your direction. Do not misunderstand this message. It is not about superstition. It is not about magical thinking. It is about responsibility. When you treat certain days as important, you bring more presence into them. And presence changes everything. Most people are absent from their own lives. They are physically present, but mentally elsewhere. Thinking about yesterday, worrying about tomorrow, comparing themselves to others, seeking validation. Presence is rare, but presence is power. On February 23rd and 24, be present, not dramatic, not anxious, present, not anxious, present. Notice your breathing, notice your posture, notice your reactions. Control what you can control. If something challenges you, do not immediately resist. Observe, breathe, respond consciously. Remember, the goal is not to avoid difficulty. The goal is to grow through it. A critical moment is a teacher. And teachers are not always gentle. Sometimes they are firm, sometimes they expose your weaknesses. But they do so to strengthen you. If you approach these days with fear, you shrink. If you approach them with awareness, you expand. Congratulations if you found this message, because now you cannot say you were unaware. Now you cannot say you were surprised. You have been reminded to wake up, and waking up is uncomfortable. It means you can no longer blame others for your condition. It means you must take ownership of your habits. It means you must face your distractions. But ownership is empowering. When you take ownership, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You become the architect of your response. You cannot choose every event in your life, but you can choose your standard. Raise your standard before those days arrive. Raise your standard in how you speak. Raise your standard in how you think. Raise your standard in how you use your time. Do not wait for a crisis to become disciplined. Become disciplined so that crises lose their power over you. Life will always present critical moments, not just on specific dates, but throughout your journey. Job decisions, relationship conflicts, health challenges, financial pressures. If you only prepare when you are afraid, you will always be behind. Prepare because you respect yourself, respect your potential enough to train, respect your future enough to focus, respect your mind enough to discipline it. When February 23rd and 24 arrive, do not look around for signs. Look within. Ask yourself, am I calmer than before? Am I clearer than before? Am I stronger than before? Am I stronger than before? Am I stronger than before? If the answer is yes, then those days have already served their purpose, because the real transformation does not happen on the calendar. It happens in the preparation, and preparation begins now. Stand upright, take a deep breath, decide who you want to be, but not just on those days, but every day after. It is a reminder to awaken, and if you are awake, even the most critical moment becomes your opportunity to rise. Discipline will decide your outcome, not luck, not coincidence, not other people's opinions. Discipline. And most people misunderstand discipline. They think it is harsh, they think it is punishment, they think it is restriction, but discipline is self-respect in action. It is remembering who you want to become when your emotions try to pull you backward. When we say February 23rd and 24 are critical, understand this clearly. Critical days do not create your character, they reveal it. Whatever you have been practicing in silence will speak loudly in moments of pressure. If you have practiced distraction, you will be distracted. If you have practiced excuses, you will find excuses. If you have practiced focus, you will remain focused. If you have practiced calm breathing and awareness, you will stand steady while others shake. Opportunity often arrives disguised as pressure. This is why many people miss it. They are waiting for something comfortable, something easy, something that feels good immediately. But growth rarely feels comfortable in the beginning. Growth feels like resistance. Growth feels like effort. Growth feels like confronting your own weaknesses. When pressure comes, the undisciplined mind looks for escape. It searches for comfort. It blames circumstances. It complains about timing. But the disciplined mind asks a different question. It asks, what is required of me right now? That single question changes everything. It shifts you from victim to participant. It shifts you from reactive to intentional. Many people say they want success. Many people say they want peace. Many people say they want a better future. But when it is time to train, they hesitate, they delay, they negotiate with their comfort. Discipline is doing what must be done, even when you do not feel like doing it. Especially when you do not feel like doing it. On February 23rd and 24, many will react emotionally to whatever unfolds in their lives. Some will panic, some will overthink, some will freeze, some will explode in frustration, but a small percentage will respond consciously. The difference between reaction and response is awareness. Reaction is automatic, response is trained. If someone criticizes you, do you immediately defend yourself, or do you pause and evaluate? If something does not go according to your plan, do you collapse internally? Or do you adjust calmly? These are not small details. These are indicators of your training. You cannot expect stability in critical moments if you are unstable in ordinary moments. Discipline is not built during crisis. It is built during routine. It is built when nobody is watching. It is built when you wake up and choose to get out of bed instead of pressing snooze. It is built when you finish what you start. It is built when you keep your promises to yourself. The undisciplined person is controlled by mood. If they feel motivated, they work. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel inspired, they act. If they feel bored, they quit. But moods change constantly. If your life is controlled by changing emotions, your direction will always be unstable. Discipline creates consistency, and consistency builds confidence. Not the loud confidence that seeks validation, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. Ask yourself honestly, can you rely on yourself? When you say you will do something, do you follow through? When you decide to avoid a bad habit, do you stay firm? When you commit to growth, do you remain consistent after the initial excitement fades? Critical days expose whether you trust yourself, and self-trust is built through discipline. Many people wait for external structure. They wait for someone to push them. They wait for deadlines. They wait for pressure. But the strongest individuals create internal structure. They do not need to be forced. They do not need to be watched. Their discipline is self-generated. If February 23rd and 24 bring decisions, will you be ready? If they bring opportunities, will you recognize them? If they bring challenges, will you remain composed? Your readiness is not determined on those days. It is determined now. Start by observing your daily habits. How much time do you waste on distractions? How often do you allow negative thoughts to dominate your mind? How frequently do you postpone important actions because they feel uncomfortable? Every small act of discipline strengthens your foundation. Every small act of avoidance weakens it. The mind is like a muscle. If you train it to focus, it becomes stronger. If you train it to scatter, it becomes restless. If you train it to complain, it becomes negative. If you train it to reflect, it becomes wise. You do not rise to your hopes. When pressure arrives, you do not rise to your hopes. You fall to your level of training. This is why discipline is not optional. It is essential. Imagine two individuals facing the same challenge. One has practiced daily reflection, controlled breathing, intentional action. The other has practiced distraction, impulsive reactions, emotional outbursts. The situation is identical. The outcome is not. Why? Because preparation determines perception. The disciplined person sees challenge as information. The undisciplined person sees challenge as threat. Preparation transforms fear into focus. You do not need to know exactly what will happen on February 23rd and 24. You only need to know who you are becoming before they arrive. If you strengthen your mind, you can handle uncertainty. If you build emotional control, you can handle tension. If you cultivate patience, you can handle delay. Patience is also discipline. Many people sabotage themselves because they want immediate results. They plant a seed and expect fruit the next day. But growth has its own timing. Discipline means trusting the process even when progress is invisible. There will be moments when you feel tired, moments when you question your effort, moments when you wonder if it is worth it. That is precisely when discipline matters most. Because motivation fades, excitement fades. But discipline carries you forward when emotion disappears. A critical day is not about luck. It is about alignment. Alignment between your goals and your actions. Alignment between your values and your behavior. Align, not between your words and your habits. If you say you value health but neglect your body, there is misalignment. If you say you value growth but avoid learning, there is misalignment. If you say you value peace but engage in constant negativity, there is misalignment. Critical moments magnify misalignment. They make it obvious, but they also magnify strength. They highlight resilience. They reveal clarity. So do not fear those days. Prepare for them. Use them as a deadline for self-improvement. Use them as motivation to tighten your standards. Reduce unnecessary noise in your life. Limit distractions. Spend time strengthening your focus. Discipline is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is repetitive. It is often invisible. But its results are undeniable. Wake up with intention. Move your body even when you do not feel like it. Finish tasks even when they are boring. Speak less, observe more. Replace complaints with solutions. Replace excuses with action. When you practice these daily, you are building an inner structure. And when storms come, structures determine survival. If you avoid discipline, you may feel comfortable in the short term. But comfort without growth leads to regret. Discipline may feel uncomfortable in the short term, but it creates freedom in the long term. Freedom from emotional chaos, freedom from self-doubt, freedom from regret. On February 23rd and 24, your outcome will not be random. It will be the result of your preparation, the result of your habits, the result of your internal training. And the beautiful truth is this: you still have control over that preparation. You still have the ability to choose discipline today. You still have the power to shift your direction, to don't wait for those days to begin acting seriously. Begin now. Tighten your focus, strengthen your mind, simplify your priorities, clarify your intentions, because when the moment arrives, you will not have time to rebuild your foundation. You will stand on whatever you have built. Build wisely, build with discipline, and when those critical days arrive, you will not tremble. You will stand firm, not because life is easy, but because you have trained yourself to be stronger than your circumstances. When you hear that February 23rd and 24 are critical, your first instinct may be fear. The mind immediately asks, what is going to happen? Is something bad coming? Should I be worried? This reaction is natural. The human mind is wired to protect, to anticipate danger, to prepare for uncertainty. But understand this clearly: fear is not the enemy. Unconscious fear is. Fear becomes destructive when it controls you. Fear becomes powerful when you observe it. There is a difference. Critical does not mean catastrophic. Critical means important, significant, transformative. It means a moment that carries weight. And when something carries weight, it demands awareness. The question is not whether those days will bring something intense. The question is how you will meet that intensity. Fear or faith, you must choose. Faith is not blind belief. Faith is disciplined trust. It is the decision to remain steady even when the outcome is unclear. It is choosing courage when your emotions push you toward panic. Many people misunderstand faith. They think faith means sitting back and waiting for everything to work out. But faith without action is passivity. Real faith requires strength. It requires preparation. It requires responsibility. If you say you trust God, do you also trust enough to change your habits? If you say you believe in growth, do you also believe enough to leave comfort behind? Faith is not comfortable. Faith demands movement. When a moment is critical, it presses against your weaknesses. It challenges your ego. It exposes your attachments. And the ego does not like exposure. The ego prefers safety. It prefers control. It prefers predictability. But growth lives outside of predictability. Imagine a seed buried in the soil. From the outside, nothing seems to happen. It is dark. It is compressed. It is uncomfortable. If the seed could feel emotion, it might interpret this pressure as danger. But that pressure is necessary. The shell must break before the tree can rise. Critical moments break shells. They break old identities. They break limiting beliefs. They break illusions. The question is whether you will interpret the breaking as destruction or transformation. If you choose fear, you shrink. You tighten your body. You cloud your mind. You see threats everywhere. Every small obstacle feels larger than it is. You react quickly. You speak impulsively. You lose clarity. If you choose faith, you expand. You breathe deeper. You slow your thoughts. You observe before acting. You recognize that pressure is not personal. It is part of the process. Faith does not remove challenge. It changes your relationship with challenge. Many people pray for strength, but when strength begins to develop, they resist the very discomfort that builds it. You cannot ask for resilience and expect ease. You cannot ask for wisdom and avoid difficulty. You cannot ask for elevation and cling to old patterns. Critical days are not random punishments. They are opportunities to rise to a higher standard. When you lift heavier weight in training, your muscles respond by growing stronger, but during the lift it feels uncomfortable. It burns, it stretches your limit. If you interpret that sensation as danger and stop immediately, growth stops. Life operates the same way. Pressure is feedback. Resistance is growth. Discomfort is expansion. Fear tells you to retreat. Faith tells you to remain steady. But faith is not loud, it is quiet. It is the calm voice that says, breathe, observe, respond with intention. It is the decision to trust your preparation rather than your panic. On February 23rd and 24, you may face decisions, conversations, uncertainty, maybe nothing dramatic at all, but internally something will shift if you allow it. The shift happens when you realize you are not here to avoid difficulty, you are here to evolve through it. Fear focuses on what might go wrong. Faith focuses on who you are becoming. Fear asks, what if I fail? Faith asks, what can I learn? Fear says, this is too much. Faith says, this is too much. Faith says, this is shaping me. The mind often exaggerates danger. It imagines worst-case scenarios. It replays negative outcomes before anything has even happened. This mental rehearsal of fear drains energy. It weakens clarity. It creates tension where none is required. Instead, train your awareness. When fear arises, do not suppress it. Observe it. Notice the tightness in your chest. Notice the rapid thoughts. Notice the urge to control everything. And then breathe. Breathing deeply is not weakness. It is control. Slow breathing signals safety to your nervous system. It creates space between stimulus and reaction. In that space, faith has room to act. Faith is strengthened by discipline. If you have trained your mind daily, it will not collapse easily. If you have practiced reflection, you will recognize exaggerated thoughts. If you have practiced emotional control, you will not be easily shaken. This is why preparation matters. You cannot suddenly become fearless on a critical day, but you can become courageous. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward despite it. Think carefully. Every breakthrough in your life likely came after uncertainty. Every improvement required leaving something behind. Every lesson required discomfort. So why fear critical moments? Yet, they are the gateways to the next level. If you avoid them, you remain stagnant. If you face them consciously, you evolve. Faith is not about knowing the outcome. It is about trusting the process. It is about understanding that even if something does not unfold as you expect, it can still serve your growth. Control is limited. You cannot control other people's actions. You cannot control every external event. But you can control your posture, your breath, your decisions, and that is enough. Fear tries to convince you that you are powerless. Faith reminds you that you always have agency over your response. When those days arrive, do not search for danger, search for opportunity. Ask yourself, where can I act with integrity? Where can I demonstrate patience? Where can I show discipline? Let those days become proof of your growth. If tension appears, remain grounded. If uncertainty appears, remain curious. If challenge appears, remain steady. You are not fragile. You are adaptable. The human spirit is designed to grow through resistance, but only if you stop running from it. Faith also requires letting go of attachment to specific outcomes. Many fears come from rigid expectations. It must go this way. This cannot happen. I cannot lose this. Attachment creates anxiety. Flexibility creates peace. When you are flexible, you are powerful because you can adjust, you can pivot, you can respond intelligently instead of emotionally. Critical days test flexibility. They test patience. They test whether your belief is shallow or deep. Do you believe only when life feels smooth, or do you remain grounded when life feels uncertain? True faith is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet confidence. It is steady movement. It is choosing integrity, even when nobody is watching. If you found this message, do not interpret it as a warning of doom. Interpret it as an invitation to maturity, an invitation to rise above impulsive reactions, an invitation to strengthen your inner foundation. Fear will knock, it always does, but you decide whether it enters. Let faith answer instead. Stand upright, breathe deeply, prepare your mind, reduce unnecessary distractions, strengthen your awareness before those days arrive. And when February 23rd and 24 come, you will not be controlled by fear. You will move with faith, not because everything is predictable, but because you have trained yourself to remain centered within unpredictability. That is strength, that is growth, that is transformation. There are moments in life that quietly divide your story into two chapters, before awareness and after awareness. February 23rd and 24 can be just two ordinary dates on a calendar, or they can become your turning point. The difference will not be the date. The difference will be you. Why? A turning point is not always dramatic. It does not always come with noise, applause, or visible change. Sometimes it is internal, a decision made in silence, a standard raised when nobody is watching, a commitment strengthened without announcement. The most powerful shifts often happen quietly. You may be waiting for something external to change your life, a new opportunity, a breakthrough, a sign. But the true turning point begins when you stop waiting and start deciding. When you decide that your old habits are no longer acceptable. When you decide that excuses are no longer comfortable. When you decide that your future deserves a stronger version of you. That is the moment your life begins to shift. February 23 and 24 can represent that decision. Not because something magical will happen, but because you choose to use them as a line in the sand. Before this, I was reactive. After this, I am intentional. After this, I am disciplined. Before this, I doubted myself. After this, I act with clarity. Turning points are not given. They are claimed. Few act on them. Inspiration without action fades quickly. Emotion without structure disappears. If you feel motivated now but do nothing, you will return to your old patterns. That is why this must be more than emotion. It must be decision. Decision requires courage. It takes courage to admit that you have been inconsistent. It takes courage to admit that you have wasted time. It takes courage to admit that you have avoided responsibility. But courage is the gateway to growth. Self-confrontation is not self-hatred. It is self-respect. If you can look at your weaknesses without running, you are already stronger than before. February 23 and 24 can be the moment you stop negotiating with mediocrity. The moment you stop telling yourself later. The moment you stop blaming circumstances for what only discipline can fix. You cannot control every outcome, but you can control your standard. Raise your standard. Raise it in how you speak. Speak less negativity. Speak less gossip. Speak more intention. Raise it in how you think. Catch negative thought patterns before they spiral. Replace complaint with problem solving. Replace comparison with focus. Raise it in how you use your time. Time is life. When you waste time, you waste potential. Protect your hours. Guard your attention. Choose carefully what you allow into your mind. Turning points demand sacrifice. You cannot carry old habits into a new chapter. Something must be released. Maybe it is procrastination. Maybe it is self-doubt. Maybe it is toxic environments. Maybe it is the addiction to comfort. Comfort feels safe, but it often keeps you small. Growth requires discomfort. It requires waking up when you would rather sleep. It requires finishing what you start. It requires consistency when motivation fades. But remember this, discipline today creates freedom tomorrow. If you choose comfort today, you may feel relaxed now, but you will feel regret later. If you choose discipline today, you may feel resistance now, but you will feel pride later. Which future do you want? A turning point is not about intensity for one day, it is about consistency afterward. February 23rd and 24 are not the finish line. They are the beginning of a higher standard. When you wake up on those days, do not search for something dramatic. Instead, focus on how you carry yourself. Stand upright. Breathe deeply. Move with intention. Observe your reactions carefully. If something irritates you, notice it. If something challenges you, breathe before responding. If something excites you, remain grounded. Stability is strength. The world is full of people who are easily shaken, easily distracted, easily offended, easily discouraged. Do not be one of them. Be stable. Stability is built through awareness and repetition. It is built by practicing calm in small situations so that you can maintain it in larger ones. Those days can be proof of your growth, a quiet confirmation that you are no longer controlled by impulses, that you no longer panic easily, that you no longer allow fear to dictate your actions. Transformation is not loud, it is subtle. It is the difference between reacting instantly and pausing for 3 seconds. It is the difference between quitting and finishing. It is the difference between complaining and adapting. 3 seconds of pause can change your entire direction. When pressure appears, pause. When doubt whispers, pause. If you allow these days to pass without intention, nothing changes. But if you use them as a marker, a commitment to yourself, everything begins to shift. Mark them as the moment you became serious. Mark them as the moment you stopped drifting. Mark them as the moment you stopped ownership. But ownership is power. When you take ownership, you stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" You stop blaming, you start building. Life rewards builders. Build your focus. Build your discipline, build your resilience, build your integrity. Integrity is especially important. It means your actions align with your values. It means you do what is right, even when it is inconvenient. It means you keep promises, even when nobody checks. A turning point strengthens integrity, because when you decide to change, you must honor that decision daily. There will be days after February 23rd and 24 when motivation fades again. That is normal. Do not expect permanent excitement. Expect moments of resistance. Expect moments of doubt, but do not let them redefine you. Remind yourself, this is the chapter where I became stronger. Every strong person has a turning point, a day when they decided enough was enough, a day when they chose discipline over comfort, a day when they stopped making excuses. Why not let these days be yours? Dayabi, you do not need permission. You do not need applause. You do not need external validation. You need commitment. Commit to waking up with purpose. Commit to controlling your reactions. Commit to finishing what you start. Commit to training your mind daily. Small commitments repeated consistently create massive transformation. If you truly understand that these days are critical, then treat them with respect. Respect does not mean fear. It means presence. It means awareness. It means intentional action. When you look back months from now, you will not remember every detail of those days, but you will remember the decision you made. Did you drift or did you rise? Or did you stay the same? Or did you elevate? I did. The turning point is not waiting in the future. It is waiting in your decision. So decide now. Step into February 23rd and 24, not as a passive observer, but as an active participant in your growth. Let those days mark the beginning of your higher standard. Not louder, not more dramatic, just stronger, calmer, clearer. And when the world tests you again, because it will. You will not be surprised. You will not be surprised. You will not be shaken easily. You will remember this moment. The moment you chose to turn. The moment you stopped drifting. The moment you began becoming the disciplined, grounded, powerful version of yourself. That is your turning point. And it starts with your decision.